is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Welcome to the MorganMan Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Stacy Cole Morgan. Here on the MorganMan Sports Podcast, we talk Atlanta Falcons news, pre-game predictions, and all other news surrounding the Atlanta Falcons.
Touchdown, Atlanta!
Also on the podcast, we talk Call of Duty League, esports, covering Roster Mania, major predictions, COD champs, player trades, and much more to get you ready for every single CDL weekend.
Scuff goes through, and Scuff snaps, wins the one-on-one in Optic with the reverse sweep.
If that sounds good with you, put on your Falcons jersey, grab your gaming headset, and let's get this show started. What is going on, you guys? I'm your host, Stacy Cole Morgan, and you're listening to the MorganMan Sports Podcast here on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Coupon HQ, or wherever you find your preferred podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, this weekend we are discussing the Minor 2 tournament that is happening. And guys, I'm going to tell you, it's exciting. There are some matches that are must-see and potentially must-see. So we're going to go through the entire pick'ems right here, discuss who I think is going to win the Minor 2 tournament, and so much more. So without any further delay, let's go get straight into today's action. All right, guys, so on round one, all of this is happening on Friday, February 28th right here. You got the Boston Breach taking on the Vancouver Surge at 6 p.m. Then at 4:30 p.m., you got Optic Texas taking on the Vegas Falcons. The Minnesota Rocker taking on Cloud9 New York at 7:30 p.m. And the Miami Heretics versus the Los Angeles Guerrillas at 2:30 p.m. So definitely there is a lot of matches happening just on Friday right there, ladies and gentlemen. And then, of course, in round two, Atlanta Faze, Toronto Ultra, the Los Angeles Thieves, and the Carolina Royal Ravens do get that bye going into Saturday, March 1st. So let's go ahead and go through the pick'ems right here, ladies and gentlemen. So the Boston Breach and Seattle Surge. So for those two teams right now, ladies and gentlemen, according to the Major 2 qualifier standings, the Vancouver Surge is 3-0, while the Boston Breach is 2-2. So the Vancouver Surge is pretty much having a field day right now, going undefeated so far in the Major 2 qualifiers. But the Boston Breach can be sneaky at times. And that's where you really got to pay attention to them. But if I was a bet man, I will say Seattle Surge will win this series, but in a 3-2. I feel like the Boston Breach can pick up momentum early on, but then the Vancouver Surge bounces back and will go advancing to Atlanta Faze on that Saturday matchup. Then you got Optic Texas versus the Vegas Falcons. So both teams right now, according to the Major 2 qualifiers, are at the bottom of the poll, with Vegas Falcons sitting at 0-4 and Optic Texas sitting at 0-3. So now, do I think Optic Texas is a better roster? Obviously over the Vegas Falcons. So that makes me lean more towards Optic right now, but the Vegas Falcons could potentially pull a shocker in this one. So I'm kind of like, it's like coin flip, but I think the Vegas Falcons could keep up with the Optic Texas squad and at least compete in a 3-2 series. Minnesota Rocker taking on Cloud9 New York. For their rankings right now, Cloud9 New York is third place with a 3-1 record in the Major 2 qualifiers. Minnesota Rocker is also 3-1. So you got very talented teams right now in the Major 2. So if I had to lean more towards one team, I would say Minnesota Rocker in a 3-1. I think sometimes Cloud9 New York just gets a little too ahead of themselves. And Minnesota Rocker can definitely take the easier and more logistical approach in these hard points and controls. And then finally, on your Friday series right here, you got the Miami Heretics taking on the Los Angeles Guerrillas. Me personally, I'm going to say it's going to be the Miami Heretics at a 3-1. So that does leave us with Saturday's matches. Atlanta Faze taking on the Vancouver Surge. That Saturday, March 1st for Faze and Surge at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. I like Faze. I really do. I think they ruined Vancouver Surge's win streak right here going forward. But it's not going to be easy. I think it's going to be a 3-2 for the boys in the red and black. Toronto Ultra versus Optic Texas. I do think this goes in favor of Toronto Ultra. But in a 3-1, I think Optic is slowly getting back to where they need to be at with Pred back on the squad, but not just right away. I think losing the Minor 2 tournament would definitely help push things forward for Optic Texas. But for right now, it's Toronto Ultra and Atlanta Faze in the semifinals. So for round 2, you got the remaining matches of Los Angeles Thieves versus Rocker. Now, me in this series right here, ladies and gentlemen, I like it to be a 3-1 against the Minnesota Rocker. So the Los Angeles Thieves would definitely terrorize them and decimate them pretty much. Royal Ravens versus the Team Heretic. So this is a toss-up right here. I like the Royal Ravens, what they're doing with Slasher in his role. But also at the same time, you really got to think that is Heretics that team. I mean, yes, they're what? I mean, they're 9th place right now in the CDL, according to the Major 2 qualifier stand-ins. So they're kind of regressing a little bit, but at the same time, they could surprise you. So I'm going to have to pick the Royal Ravens in a 3-2 over the Miami Heretics, which of course will definitely eliminate them. So now moving forward into the semifinals, you got Atlanta Faze taking on the Toronto Ultra. I'm going to go Faze right here over Toronto Ultra, but again, it's not going to be easy. Toronto Ultra can bring the heat, as I mean, they're 2-2 right now, but this is a rivalry game for Atlanta Faze, and you know Toronto Ultra is going to bring the heat. So 3-2 Atlanta Faze. Faze is looking unstoppable, even though they do have a lot of close matches. They're still looking like the Tiny Terrors and the God Mode and Celium and Draza. Your final semifinals right here is the Los Angeles Thieves taking on the Royal Ravens. So I like the Thieves in this one over the Royal Ravens. Royal Ravens, I think, takes a step back as far as productivity in their hard points and search and destroys. And I think what's going to win them is pretty much just a series of control. And then finally, in the finals at 6 p.m. Eastern, Sunday, March 2nd, you got the Atlanta Faze taking on the Los Angeles Thieves. So, with that being said, Atlanta Faze, I do think, is going to win the series over the Los Angeles Thieves in a 4-0. No, I'm just kidding. Not in a 4-0, but the Los Angeles Thieves, I think, can bring a lot of pressure to Atlanta Faze this weekend. At least get two maps on them. I do think Atlanta Faze is going to win this 4-2. The reason I say that is because Atlanta Faze still is pretty much a dominant team, but the Los Angeles Thieves, they got redemption on their mind. They got this blood that is pumping through them from the Major 1 tournament pretty much, and they're seeking revenge. So with that being said, yes, they might start off 2-0. They got 2 more maps to go. But then Faze, of course, they do what is best. They bounce back. And pretty much sweeps them 4-0 right there, being down 0-2. So I think that is the perfect scenario right there for the Atlanta Faze to really capture the minor 2 tournament. And of course, that will bring in a lot of CDL points right there for Atlanta. So that's my overall bracket, ladies and gentlemen. It is pretty dang good, I would have to say. I think these are very logistical approaches to the pick'em. Now, I could be wrong on a lot of the how the score numbers are going to be predicted, but I think as far as like the winners and losers go, I think I near about have it picked out just perfectly. So of course that will earn me some pick'em points right here, and so we're going to go ahead and submit my predictions on the official CDL website, or pick'em.callofdutyleague.com. So those are my final predictions. They are locked in as of this podcast recording. So Atlanta Faze winning it all in the minor 2 tournament, 4-2 over the Los Angeles Thieves. Of course, they will be the runner-ups alongside with the Royal Ravens and the Toronto Ultra. So guys, who do you have winning the minor 2 tournament this weekend? Do you have Atlanta Faze or do you have the Los Angeles Thieves? Or do you have a wild card and saying it's going to be Optic, Texas, since this is their minor and major coming up? So we'll have to wait and see what happens right there. But again, that is my submitted pick'ems for the minor 2 tournament. But guys, I sure hope you did enjoy it. If you did, make sure to like button wherever you are listening from, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you find your preferred podcast. And I, Cole Morgan, will catch you all later. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this Belly Up Sports Podcast Network product. Some said we go belly up, so we made it our name, and we're still here.